working. Excellent. So my experience, you probably want to know, why is this person talking to me about teaching kindergartners and beginners? What do they know? I taught English in South Korea for around 10 years. So I first came here about 10 years ago, and I spent 5 or 6 years teaching kindergartners mostly, and kind of young elementary students. And then since I joined Twinkle 5 years ago, I also still do some teaching on the side, some tutoring, some online teaching, etc., etc. Some summer camp type stuff. If you're in Korea, you'll be familiar with summer or winter camps. This is a lovely, no one can see those photos, hold on. The clicking, I have to click on this screen to get it to work. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my screen sharing so that it works in the best way possible. Please hold on. Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. Now you can see everything properly. That's much better. So yeah, this is a picture of me and my students. You can tell this was before I discovered Twinkle displays, because these ones are not that good. I think we could have done better with some Twinkle posters in the background. You can see one of my 6-year-old students reading a book that I think is a bit far above his level, but he clearly didn't find it very interesting. And then a picture of me hybrid teaching during COVID. So I was teaching a class of two classes of kindergartners, some of whom came to school masked up, and then some of whom we were teaching online. So I had to hybrid teach kindergarten, which was a fun experience. Something I want to mention before we kind of get into the conversation is young learners are usually beginners. Beginners are not always young learners. So nearly all of your young students, your kindergartners, your preschoolers are going to be at the beginning of their English language journey because they're the beginning of their life journey, right? But beginners are not always young learners. So let's choose an example. I imagine that not many people in here speak Portuguese. You could surprise me, you might have a lot of Portuguese speakers. But if you were to learn Portuguese tomorrow, you're not going to be a kindergartner, but you are going to be a beginner, right? So through this presentation, I will use the two interchangeably sometimes, but it's important to remember there is a slight difference. And the two guides I'm going to give you at the end are going to reflect that. So this session might focus a little bit more on young learners, and some of those strategies and ideas you can use for kind of slightly older students, but mostly they will also be appropriate for beginners. So I also wanted to talk about young learners. It's quite a vague definition, right? Every country calls this group of students something different. Call them kindergartners, preschoolers, pre-K. In Korea, we have 어린이집, and then we have 유치원. So there's a lot of different terms you might use for kind of the group of students. Today, I'm mostly going to be focusing on young students, let's say 4 to 8 years old. Again, a lot of these ideas can really be easily used with slightly old learners. You don't stop enjoying games when you're 8 years old. You don't stop enjoying songs when you're 8 years old. But all of these ideas and tips are kind of optimal for this age group of students, so around 4 to 8 years old. And then beginners. Who are beginners? A beginner, usually at this age, we're talking about pre-A1 students. So they're students at the very beginning of their English language journey. According to the European Framework of Languages, pre-A1 students, when they're studying at this level, they should be able to understand simple questions and sentences, recognize familiar words or hear familiar words, and understand very simple instructions. But that is all with visual support and gestures. So we're not understanding a full sentence with no context, right? There is a little bit of context. And in terms of language production, they should be able to describe themselves, express feelings with simple adjectives, and give basic information, and be able to point at something and ask what it is. Should we teach young learners? So when I first was thrown into the deep end and I was teaching very young students, something I always ask myself is this the right idea? The students always seem to be so young and so sweet, and they look so adorable in their uniforms. But I always thought, is this good for them? Is it good to take really young students and put them in a classroom and teach them English? I've done a little research and then look at the academic literature. And for the most part, teaching a second language at a young age is good. Early language is the best time to start learning a second language. Learning a second language can improve other areas of their academic performance, right? So students who are learning a language at a young age will see increased performance in other areas. And it's also really good for their social understanding, their emotional well-being. That being said, you don't want to treat them like other students. They are still young, and putting them into a classroom and expecting the same things that you would from elementary age students, elementary up, it's just not going to happen. They're not going to be happy, and it's not fair to them. They're young kids. They can't spend hours sitting at a desk the way slightly older students learn. So I would always advise avoiding teaching grammar rules, and to be honest, any grammar forward teaching method. So starting by presenting a grammar rule, practicing it, introducing it, and asking them to replicate it. I don't think you'd get very far doing that. Sitting down for a long period of time, if you have young children, if you taught a lot of young children, you know, they're just not going to be able to sit down at a desk for a very long time. Abstract concepts, so anything really that they're not already familiar with in life, or they're not familiar with in their first language, you're going to struggle with because they don't have the context for it. When we teach adults, you can kind of start introducing concepts like equality or justice or mental health. But 4 years old, 5 years old kids, they don't understand these concepts, let alone understanding it in their second language. And then finally, reading activities. It's up to kind of you and your school environment if you're going to introduce phonics, and you need to think about whether that's going to be a part of your classroom or not. For most students in Asia, they will need to have a very strong grasp of phonics before you get going with any reading, because they will not be familiar with an English alphabet, right? Because here in most Asian countries, we're using very different characters and very different language, especially if you're teaching in Korea or a Chinese speaking country or in Japan. So really think about whether you're starting them on a phonics journey at this age. And Twinkle has lots of resources to support that, but you need to make a choice and then decide how to go depending on that. So how do we teach young learners? So in this session, I'm going to give you various tried and true strategies and ideas. We're going to talk about games. If you've ever been to a session I've delivered before, got to talk about games, my favorite thing, very important. But I'm also going to give you some no prep games. My job is to promote Twinkle and to share our resources. Of course, I love Twinkle, but I do want to give you some other options if you're not a Twinkle subscriber at the moment. So I'll give you some no prep games that you can just play anytime. Role play. We're going to talk about topical teaching. We're going to talk about music, storytelling, physical activities, checking for understanding, positive reinforcement, and then I'm going to end on 6 top tips. So if you go away with anything, you can end the session with 6 quick, easy things to think about, and then hopefully that will be helpful for you. So first up, games. Games are really helpful because they make language memorable and meaningful. They create authentic context for learning, and they can also range from simple things like bingo, I'm sure we've all played bingo, to Simon Says, to very tactile things such as hopscotch, ball games, dice games, etc. As I promised, some no prep games. I'm going to give you some game instructions, so bear with me a bit, but these are included in the free guide, so if you don't remember everything. So first up is the telephone game. We ask students to line up in a line, either one big line or divide them into teams. You whisper a word or a phrase to your first student, and then they whisper it down the line one by one until they get to the end, and then you ask the student, what word did you hear? Doesn't matter if it was the right word or not, that's not the point. The point is to start engaging with the vocabulary, practicing their listening skills, and to have fun. Next up is the corner game. So in this game, you can label corners or areas of your classroom. You could keep it simple and name them 1, 2, 3. But in order to teach them vocabulary, you could name the areas of the classroom as vocabulary words that you're studying. So say you've been practicing the words for fruit, you name the corners of your classroom, something like cherry, banana, apple, pear. And you can have pictures rather than words as well. So there's a lot of visual clues. You have one student in the middle. They close their eyes. Everyone else runs to a different corner or area of the classroom that's been labelled. The student then shouts out the target word. So they shout out banana. Everyone who's in banana corner has to come and sit down. They're out. The student closes their eyes. Everyone changes corner again. The student says cherry. Everyone that's sitting in cherry zone has to come and sit down. You keep playing until you've gone through all the words and there's like the last person standing. Where is the paper? So this one, I used to play with my 6-year-old students when they were new to the kindergarten. And it began, we began it quite early on, and the idea was to build up their understanding over time and use it as an opportunity to model and practice language. So the first couple of sessions, it was a nightmare, even trying to get them to understand the instructions. Once they did and they understood what to do, it became one of our favourite classroom games. So you sit your students in a circle, you choose one detective and you ask them to leave the room or to close their eyes. You take a piece of paper, you scrunch it up and you pass it around the group of students until you say stop. That person has then got the paper. Everybody then clasps their hands and pretends to hold the paper. You invite the detective back in, and the detective has to guess who is holding the piece of paper, who actually has the paper in their hands. And what you do is you start trying to trick the detective. So the first lesson you might go, don't say anything, just smell, or look at the paper, pretend to look at the paper in your hands, or can you hear the paper? Everyone is pretending that they've got the paper. And then over time, you model it, right? So everyone's trying to trick the detective. You start saying things like, I can smell the paper. I can hear the paper. I can see the paper. Everyone is trying to trick the detective into thinking they've got the paper. The detective makes their choice and then everyone reveals and they see if the detective is right. So you can see at first, there's a little bit of like modeling instructions, trying to get them to follow along. And you start with very little language, and as you continue, you build up, you model a lot of different language, and you get them to try saying different things. They copy you, then they start trying to come up with their own tricks for paper. They might try and bluff and say, I don't have any paper at all. See if they can double bluff the detective. And you'll see their confidence and their language skills grow as you keep playing this game through your school year. And then a little bit simpler, lettable. So you just throw a ball around the classroom and students have to say a word. So if they say watermelon, the next student has to say a word that begins with the last letter. So they would have to say N, watermelon, N, nurse. Okay, the next student has to use the last letter E, say a word beginning with E as you go. If you would like to have some more tangible games, of course, Twinkle has some games that you can play. These hopscotch games are a great kind of physical activity. This one is about numbers, but remember that if you're a Twinkle subscriber, if you see a game you like, but it's not quite the target language, so you love hopscotch, but you want to have colours, just send us an email, get in touch with the customer team, and we can take requests where reasonable, so we could create the resource that you want to see. These listen and do activities, we've got quite a few of these. So you play the game and it will give different prompts. So dance like a monkey, make a silly face, hop on one foot, and it will give you lots of actions. So it's testing their kind of comprehension skills, but also it's a great physical and fun activity. And then finally, a more calm activity through the binoculars. So students just get a glimpse of an image through some imaginary binoculars. You just see a tiny bit and they have to guess what the word is. Again, you can request different versions of all of these. So if you love Through the Binoculars, but you want one on animals, I mean, probably we have it, but if we don't, just message us and we can make it for you. Role play. So role play is really important for learning because it can make language feel real and meaningful, especially if you choose something that is already familiar to students. So shopping, most students would have gone shopping with their parents. Animals, foods, restaurant, dentist, because they have a frame of reference and they can kind of get involved easily. It also removes the pressure and creates a safe environment. If you've ever been to one of my workshops before, talked a lot about the fear about language learning and the anxiety that learning a second language can create. And part of our role as teachers, especially with young learners, is to make a safe environment and remove that pressure. It builds social and emotional skills away from language. And it also encourages imagination, creativity, and it allows for natural everyday use of language. So as part of this as the teacher, there's a couple of ways that you can kind of add some additional support. You can assign roles to your students. So say you're a bakery, you tell one student, hey, you're the baker, you are the cashier or the worker, the waitress, and you're the customer, and have them play those roles and then switch it up every time you play or switch it up after 15 minutes or so to keep them engaged. You can offer them relevant sentence frames before the game to get them warmed up and to give them things to talk about. So I want this is my, etc. So they're prepared. You can pair students up or put them in groups and then circulate amongst them. So you can be listening, providing them with gentle prompts, jump into the game and start modeling the sentences yourself so they can copy you and keep praising them. You can also support them by giving them key phrases, vocabulary, labeling the play items, modeling the conversation. Maybe if you've got another teacher, you can model the play or the conversation yourselves. Again, obviously I'm going to mention Twinkle, but I do love these role play packs. I think they're some of the oldest things on our website, some of the most downloaded and some of the most fun. There's all sorts of role play packs. You've got ice cream parlor, airport, hospital, cafe, and they've got everything you need to create a role play or kind of set up a play zone for your students. What I like about them is there's a lot of different kind of tools in each pack. So menu items, labels, flashcards, images, and you can pick and choose depending on how much time you have. So if you haven't got a lot of time, just choose one or two things from the pack. If you've got more time, you can print out everything and make a really kind of amazing role play zone for your students. You can kind of support them by asking questions about the material. So if there's a bus timetable or a menu, you can ask questions about the menu or the bus timetable together. Or if they can't read and you want to do that, you can explain the menu to them. So they say, oh, teacher, how much does the vanilla ice cream cost? And you can help get involved like that. We have a lot more of these packs on site. This is a kind of very quick snapshot, but they're fantastic, and there's all sorts of crazy different packs that you can find. Topical lessons. As I said back at the beginning, I don't think grammar focused teaching is appropriate for very young students. I think instead you want to take a topical approach. So you want to teach structure lessons around topics that they're going to be interested in and are going to be relevant for them. So you could teach animals, and then as part of that, you're naturally including habitats, jungle, mountain, beach, can and can't, the bird can fly, the fish can't fly, etc. And also adjectives. So the lion is big, the giraffe is tall, the mouse is small, etc. Fruits and vegetables. So structuring lessons about fruits and vegetables gives you an opportunity to teach colours, can I have, teach counting, etc., etc. Jobs can be used to teach the present simple. Family can be used for teaching age or adjectives of appearance. The weather could be used to teach present continuous. So start with topics that you know are going to be interesting to them and then build the necessary lessons for their level around those topics. Music. So using songs and even simple chants can support language lessons with young learners. Music can make language more memorable. My son speaks English at home and he learns most of his Korean from his daycare. He learnt a song about butterflies, I think about 8 months ago, and he has sung the song about butterflies non-stop ever since. If we see a butterfly, if there's a picture of a butterfly, there comes the butterfly song again. It is incredibly memorable and it helps language stick in students' heads. It also supports pronunciation teaching, it increases their focus, it allows for physical movement. And you can include lots of different things into the music, right? So it doesn't have to just be sitting and listening to a song together. You can use songs that focus on TPR, total physical response, so head, shoulders, knees and toes, having them like touch the body parts. Or if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, etc. You can use it to establish routines. So young students, sometimes it's difficult to round them up, difficult to kind of get them all on doing the same thing. Use songs as a way to do this. It will also, I'm going to talk about this at the end, but it's also going to save you a bit, right? If you can start them singing the clean-up song, inevitably they will start singing the clean-up song and they'll pick up the cues without you having to say, everybody clean up, let's clean up 100 times over and exhausting yourself. You can use them as a game. So you might want to play a song, pause it, ask them to do an action like play, dancing, dancing, pause, find something red. Play, play, dancing, 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 pause, jump like a frog, etc., etc. You can include it in stories. Think about things like today is Monday or going on a bear hunt. A lot of them have songs that accompany the story. And also call and response, repeat after me songs are great. This is an example of some of my favorite classroom songs. Walking, Walking is always a hit because it involves a lot of physical activity. It's great for remembering basic verbs. Today is Monday is really good because it goes along with the story, so it's great for teaching days of the week. The phonics song, my son is a big fan of the phonics song. It's great for teaching letter sounds and having them memorized. Lemon Tree. So Lemon Tree is a song I used often with kindergartners. And what we did is we returned to it throughout the year, and it was a song we kind of learned together through the year. I really like Lemon Tree because it has a really silly animation that kids find hilarious. But it's easy to build actions into too. It's easy to create some actions. And it's something they just kind of, you put on a Friday afternoon, have a little practice, do the, watch the animation, do the actions together. And over the year, they get better and better until the end of the year, you've got them able to sing a full song in English. You could even perform it for parents or record it as a present to parents. Try to skip this slide without playing every video. We keep doing it. There we go. We got there. Storytelling. Storytelling is a really important part of English teaching. It exposes English through natural patterns and repetition. Most stories geared towards young learners repeat key phrases, they repeat sentence patterns. For example, thinking about going on a bear hunt, repeats that same refrain over and over. We're going on a bear hunt, we're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day, I'm not scared. Uh-oh, it's da-da-da, da-da-da. We can't go over it. So you're repeating again and again the same expressions and you're helping them to really memorize it. It supports imagination and creativity. It strengthens listening and attention skills. And don't forget that Twinkle has plenty of ebooks for young learners. We've got some like these that are very vocabulary focused and others that are focused on kind of useful information on key topics and themes and are just silly stories to learn. But I would advise to try and improve your storytelling. Don't just sit down with a book and be done with it. Try to make it more engaging where possible. I always recommend pre-teaching vocabulary. So using flashcards or other techniques to teach them core words and phrases before reading. That means the whole book is not going to be unfamiliar to your students when they begin. Picture previews. So before reading, flick through the book together, start a conversation, ask them, oh, what color is that car? Can anyone see any animals? What is this character doing? And ask them to start thinking about it and thinking about the words in the book beforehand. You can also act out different parts of the book. So when a character jumps, have your students jump. When they're going through the long wavy grass in going on a bear hunt, your students are going through the grass. Twinkle has a couple of these cards that are great for this. They kind of give you some actions that you can include alongside common stories. So for this one, the three little pigs, you've got the big bad wolf, you've got building, you've got the numbers, you've got all sorts of actions that you can do. And then story sequencing. Again, Twinkle has some great options for this, but you read the story together, you learn, and then you have them together trying to put the events of the story in order. Other fun activities you can do are draw your favorite character. So ask your students to draw their favorite scene or their favorite part of the book. If your students don't have the fine motor skills yet, you can use kind of coloring pages or trace the line images of your favorite characters. Ask students to find items in the story, ask them to count objects, get involved. You can bring the story alive with other activities. So I've used this example before, but for Hungry Caterpillar, you could have students feed the caterpillar as you go. So you print off a big caterpillar, you get the vocabulary flashcards, which you can find on Twinkle, and you feed them to the caterpillar as you read the story. You can also eat the foods with the caterpillar, right? If you've got the time on your hands, get some watermelon, get some strawberries, get some, what else does he eat? Sausages, cherry pies, and have your students eating the food items as they go. Use some unusual objects and create sound effects. So I'm going to go back to going on a bear hunt. It's one of my favorites. But you could use paper and have students make the grass sound. For the river, you could have them splashing some water and make the water sound. So you can really bring the story alive and get them involved, especially if you want to return to the same story a couple of times over the course of a week. You want to keep it interesting and keep different activities and kind of keep their focus. So this is a great way to do that. Deep breath, talking fast again. Positive reinforcement helps young learners feel encouraged and motivated and kind of continue on their learning journey, right? Make them feel positive about it. So you can try visual rewards like stickers or vouchers or classroom money as rewards. I would always say use really positive body language, especially when your students are brand new. They might not know any English. If you're just speaking English in the classroom, they're not going to understand when you're telling them good job. You need to accompany it with thumbs up, smiles, really positive body language, so they know that you're really proud of them and they know that they're doing a good job. And celebrate small wins, right? If it's the first time a student has ever said any word in English, even if it's slightly wrong, praise them, right? They've done a huge thing. They've used a word in a new language. They've had a go. They've been confident and they've tried something. And also checking for understanding is really important. When students are having fun playing these games, doing these activities, it's really easy to think, oh yeah, they understand it. They're having a great time. So you need to keep checking in. With young students, you can't always know just from looking, right? And you can't ask them questions. You can't be like, do you understand this? Can you explain this grammar rule to me? So you need to check their gestures, facial expressions, asking them to point to different objects to see if they can do it correctly, asking them simple yes or no questions, keep it simple, encourage them to demonstrate understanding through activities. So stand up if teacher's wearing a red t-shirt. See who's standing up, see who's not, see who is kind of understanding the activities, make sure they're understanding classroom instructions. And you can also use these exit tickets to check kind of how they're feeling about the lesson and observe them as they're doing things like role play and singing songs to see how much they're picking up. And then finally, as promised, some bonus tips so you go away with something quick and easy. Number one, I mentioned this a little bit, but try to relate things, try to learn things or focus learning on things that students know that's relevant to their life. We're working on a fantastic set of resources about sustainable development goals at the moment for teenagers. Is sustainable development goals relevant for 4-year-olds? No. What is relevant for 4-year-olds? Toys, animals, foods, shopping, the playground, things that are relevant and important for their life. Switch up the activities often. Young students have very, very short attention spans. So don't plan an activity that's going to be longer than 15 to 20 minutes. You want to keep moving, keep doing different things. And also switch up the activity style. So try some more active activity and also some more calm activity. This will help them keep them emotionally regulated. It will save your energy and it will help to keep them focused. Also prepare more activities than you think. Inevitably, you will prepare an activity that you think is going to be so fun. You're so excited. You start doing it and they just don't get it. They don't like it. They don't think it's fun. It's not working. And that's fine. That happens. Kids are unpredictable. It's sometimes hard to know what's going to be a hit and what's not. Always have backup options. Always have more activities than you think you need for that class time. Have some activities that are just evergreen. You can easily whip them out at any moment and they'll work. Have spare flashcards kept in your classroom. Have spare role play things that you can pull out in a jiffy. Have no prep games in your mind ready to go, because inevitably you'll need to be more prepared than you planned for. I mean, hopefully all of your activities work great and they love everything, but in my experience, there's always something that doesn't quite work. Also, be patient. At this age, students are not going to make massive progress overnight. They're not going to be speaking perfect English and they're going to be making a lot of mistakes, and that's fine. Don't expect them to be going from pre-A1 to A2 within a year. What you are doing is laying the foundations of English. You're introducing it, you're getting them excited about it, and you're building the foundation for probably a lifelong journey learning English. I mean, thinking about Korea where I teach, students start learning English at kindergarten at 4 or 5 years old. They learn all through elementary school, and then they have to prepare for their high school exam learning English. And then even at university, they have to keep preparing if they want to work abroad or if they want English qualification for the workplace. So you are at the very beginning of that journey for them. You are not taking them away. You're laying the foundations and preparing them for that journey ahead. And then finally, but most importantly, look after yourself. Teaching kindergarten or teaching young learners is fun, it's exciting, it's rewarding, it's also exhausting. So you need to look after yourself. That means if you can use some audio in a Twinkle PPT instead of you saying the vocab words, use it. Stay hydrated, come with a bottle of water. If you can use their calm activities to sit down for 5 minutes and give yourself a breather, do it. If you could reuse a game that you played last week and put a twist on it to save yourself prep time, do it. There is no shame in making things easier for yourself. No one is going to like a tired and exhausted teacher. You're not going to like it. Kids are not going to like it. It's very tiring. You need to look after yourself. So don't ever feel that you are a bad teacher because you haven't printed out and created a full role play set that has a house and has toys. Your students will still have fun, right? Don't feel bad that you've used a Twinkle PPT in every lesson this week. That's fine. That's what we're here for. Look after yourselves. It's a fun job, but it's a tough job. And that's the note I want to end things on. Obviously, I've mentioned Twinkle quite a lot through this presentation. Don't forget that we have plenty of free guides. So we have a free guide on teaching beginners and teaching pre-A1 learners. I'm going to give you the links to those. Also, we have everything you might need to teach. Like I mentioned, role play packs, games, worksheets, board games, everything you need. Something I didn't mention was making your space really welcoming and inviting. I think that's a really important part of teaching young learners. Twinkle has plenty of decorations, posters, and we're also here to support you. We do plenty of these workshops. If there's another workshop you'd like to see, let me know. We're also running a conference in January. So if you like this session and thought, oh, I'd like to do a session like that, I'd like to present, you're welcome to apply as a speaker, or you can just come along and listen to all the fabulous speakers. We also have a lot of CPD courses like marketing yourself as a teacher or phonics or all sorts of courses that you can take to improve your skills. If you want to try Twinkle out, you can try it. In most countries, you get a free month. In some countries, you have to pay like a very small amount, like £1 or €1, to try it for a month. See how you like it. See if it helps you save time and makes your life a little bit easier. I'm going to be sending the links in the chat now. I'm not going to give out the PPT slides, but I'm going to give you the free guides because they're a little bit easier. You can click all of the links in the free guide, whereas none of the links are clickable. So instead of the slides, I'm going to be sharing the free guides. I'll grab those links for you now. and I'll stop recording. Does anyone have any questions?